All right, let's get into it. Guys, some of you have been on a webinar like this with me before, where we deconstruct sightings themselves and look at what happened in the sighting, why it happened, and images that we took of the sighting and why we took them and how we edited them. I just keep going until I run out of time. So how many we get through is unknown at this point, and it also depends on how many questions you might have, which I encourage. Fling them my way, and we'll get right into it. Okay, so firstly, I'll play a little video. Let me show you here for an example. Desktop share of a scene. So let's start off with this scene, okay? Can everyone see my screen? Actually, you know what? I can actually do this a little bit better by making it my background. Let's do that. Video, choose virtual background, and then I can explain it a little bit better. How about this? So, Ethiopia, we're starting with. It's one of, oh, that one's too big. Let's see if I can add another one. Nope, too big. Let's try Uganda. Too big. Okay, so we're gonna share screen, and we're gonna play it from my desktop. Okay, can everyone see the gelato baboons? Whole family of them. Male is at the far back, and let me just make sure everyone can see if this is working. I haven't done it this way before. Yes, yes, yes. Good. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, let me put the chats there. So as you can see, one of the things when you go to Ethiopia, okay, and I did a similar image like this before on my last one, but I'm gonna go through another series, is to capture what defines these Simian Mountains most. One of the most exciting things is gelato baboons. Massive golden hair. You're in a troop of hundreds of them. They're all over the place, and it really is quite magnificent walking amongst them. But you can just snap away and you can get really kind of nothing. The biggest thing to do is try and capture the males. They've got these huge golden manes, which are really beautiful. And very importantly, capture the mountains themselves, the Simian Mountains. This is one of the most incredible places I've ever seen in my life. If you look behind these gelato baboons, this family, the Simian Mountains, unlike any other range I've seen, drops almost in a single fall to the lowlands. In this northern sector, it climbs quite slowly in the south. The northern sector just drops thousands of feet. You can see it going and vanishing off down there. So it's this massive cascading fall, and if you can get a male gelato in that frame, plus the Simian Mountains falling off, immediately a viewer can go, that's a gelato baboon, and that's the magnificent Simian Mountains. Because the females and the youngsters, they look like olive baboons, they look like chacma baboons, they look like yellow baboons. They're all quite similar in their appearance, but the males are very striking, and the Simian Mountains are unlike any place I've ever seen in my life. So that's the two things that you aim for, and you can only really get it in the early morning. When the gelato pops up from the cliff, they sleep on the cliffs because historically, there's still some leopards there. I know of a researcher who worked there. In 7 years, he saw one leopard. So they're very secretive. They're very, very hard to see. They are there. There used to be a lot more, obviously through encroachment of people into the area. There's not as many, but there's still hyenas that patrol the ridges. So the baboons sleep on the cliffs at night for safety. When they come up, they pause on the top of the cliff for roughly sometimes an hour if you're lucky, sometimes less. In those moments, you've got to find the males on the edge. That way you can get valley, gelada, everything. You can get this really big image. Not that the little portraits you get during the day are nice and fighting scenes and all of that, but that's the really big image, the one you're looking for. So you go and you find a family like this. Even though there's a troop of 300 of them, sometimes 800, they can get up to 800, and you can sit in the middle of them. It's outrageous. Most of the time, they're about 200, 300. In that 300, 200, 300, there's family groups, male, couple of females, and some youngsters. You usually about 5 in their family group with the one male. You find that group as they come up the cliff, and then you position yourself. You can sit right next to them. That's only a few meters from me. And you wait for that male or the family to arrange themselves in some sort of symmetrical manner, or the male to isolate himself from the family, and you can get him on his own. That's what you're aiming for. Boom, male simian mountains. So you can see they've played around quite a lot. There's females all over the show here, grooming in the sunlight. However, in this scene, there's a lot going on here, and it's not really a picture other than a kind of documentative shot, which shows simian mountains, because there's too much going on. There's too many faces looking in different directions and tails all over the place. But if you're patient, it really can pay off. So you just got to position yourself. The biggest thing here is to look in this section over here and align your background carefully, knowing that in your image there's going to be a solid backdrop, uninterrupted backdrop. There's not going to be bits and pieces of mountains sticking all over the place. You want it to fall away quite nicely. So that's where you position, and then you get patient. So let's get into Lightroom. If at any stage things cut out, you just got to let me know if you can't see anything. So we took a number of images. Now I started here. The male finally separated himself, and he kind of just sat there. It's one of my favorite images. This one, not this one, but one coming up. He kind of just crossed his arms. He sat there, and he kind of just looked around, and his family moved off, and he was just assessing the place. The males are always fighting, so they're always watching each other. Now this is quite late in the. Where's the sun? Where's the shadow coming from? It's coming from the east. So this was in the morning. But the sun was really quite high here, so they lingered on the cliffs. These are, you can see there's a couple more in the background here, but this is the back of the troop, and it's about 9 o'clock, and the sun's really quite high. And because it's those mountains, it's very clean and very harsh very quickly in the day. So you can see this white light on there. What the? Sometimes the computers don't work so well when Zoom's operating for some reason, but bear with me. Let's go back to that. It's a bit annoying. Sorry, everyone. I don't know why it sometimes does this. Okay, let's go back to our baboons. Okay, let's create some images. Okay, go into the develop module, and let's see what we got up. He isolated himself quite nicely. And in my original place, I was perched up on a rock. With my original intention was to capture more of what fell directly behind him. So I wanted to get a bit of height. But by giving height, I took emphasis away from the baboon, gave it to the viewer, and gave it to its background. So I took a lot of emphasis away from the baboon, which is a risky move. And in this case, it didn't work. And I saw that in the first dozen or so images that I took. I said, oh, it's nice. I can see a lot of the simian mountains behind him. But the downward angle is just, it's taking away from how magnificent this male was. So I got on the ground and I lay a little bit to his right, and I got this one. Now, you can see at a lower angle, it gives the baboon more emphasis, although I can still see the background on the drop of the simian mountains. In this angle, I can chop out all the other baboons that are next to him. There's baboons everywhere. So in this one, he was by himself. You can see the shadow of more baboons here. So it's sometimes very small gaps you have to sit in. And another thing you can see here, I'm going to move these screens into a better place. There we go. Is it's shot quite dark, and the reason why is because of these harsh lights. You've got to be careful of highlights, especially here. You can see where the sun's catching the fur. That's why it's also called a red heart baboon. Funny enough, it's actually a monkey. A monkey. Scientifically speaking, it's actually a monkey, but it's been called a baboon for long enough that people aren't really fussed at the moment. But you can see the highlights on the fur where the sun is catching it. If I'd exposed this so that there weren't these deep shadows, let's see what that would look like. You can see the background washes out completely. That's why I underexposed it. And then post-processing, I'm going to lift the shadows and bring those shadows back. These days, a dynamic range of cameras is very powerful, especially. There's a fight going on at the moment. They say Nikons are better in dark areas, bringing back the shadows, and Canons are better at bringing back the highlights. Honestly, I can't tell the difference, but that's the theory. Anyway, they're both very good at both, in fact. So you can see I've just lifted those shadows. It's added a little bit of life inside there. If you want to lift the shadows more, here's a little trick, okay? You can zoom out. Let's go to 1/8 over here. Can you all see my mouse in the top screen here? You just click on this little guy on the top. Okay, so you zoom out a little bit and you get a graduate, because my shadows are all the way up to the top. And I think I could do with just a touch more. I grab a graduation filter, if I get this arrow to get big over there, and I add the same thing. You know, put the graduation filter in the corner here. Wow. Zoom's really Lightroom's really not liking zoom, guys. We keep going. We just keep going. Just keep going. That's all we're gonna do. Where was I? I was on a big male gelato baboon. I don't know where that ended. Okay, 1/8. There we go. Now, graduation filter. Dial in the same settings, shadows to whatever extent, and you can add it on the corner here. That means the whole image, it's going to add just a tiny bit more. I don't know if you saw that. Turn it off. Just a little bit more light, tiny bit. It's a very small amount. Okay, so you've just added a little bit more light to that frame. And to be honest, there's not a lot more I would do. The red. Remember what I said about? Let's go in close. The red heart. Now, that part of a gelato baboon is what defines gelato baboon. And it's so important in these situations to try and capture. He's a little bit sunburnt, actually. I didn't notice that. To capture what defines a baboon. And this is unique to baboons in Africa, this red heart on its front. So I might go into color and just select the reds. Maybe increase, you can see it's just touching the reds a little bit. Maybe increase their brightness and a little bit of saturation, make it a touch redder. However, there is a problem here. Okay, I am making this guy a little bit redder. Now, it doesn't matter really that that's out. That's very natural. And personally, this is one of my favorite images. I just love this baboon and how he's looking upwards and the Simian Mountains behind him. I'm going to frame this one day, and I'm going to keep his penis there, 100%. But if you want to remove it, it's as easy as going edit in Adobe Photoshop. I've removed many an animal's penis from a frame. Elephant, zebra, you name it. So very easy thing to do. Some people don't want it there. They think it detracts from the elegance of the situation. For me, it detracts from the masculinity of my male baboon. So it's entirely up to you. Personally, I'd leave it there. But you're in Photoshop now. I hope you can all see. You guys know the J function by now. If you've been following me, click the letter J. Little circle comes up. And he's gone, and I feel terrible. So you Command S, save that back into Lightroom, and you can see that red part where it's very catching. Let's actually save them both there, and we can see the difference. Personally, I'll leave it there. I feel terrible now, actually, for doing that to him. But I'll delete this image, and I hope you know it. So there's the one, and there's the other. Two next to each other. Very catching. I like it. I think it's also comical and natural and just brilliant. So a couple more things I'll probably do, a little bit of clarity and sharpening around his face, but not much more I will do to that scene. I just want to show you a few more photographs here, which are a little bit more complicated. So these baboons are very, very used to people. And I was trying to get the whole family now with a slightly different family, a little bit over to his left. And they're very used to people. They're running around all the time. Babies running around. Babies go crazy the whole day. They're just going mad, as babies do. And one of the babies was going so crazy fighting with his friends. He ran over my feet and tripped. And when he realized what he had run over, he screamed. And at this exact moment, I started taking pictures. You can see this is the baby here that ran in the middle here. So he quickly ran to his mum. He ran to the wrong mum. You can see it's grabbing this one over here, but this is actually its mum on the left here, over there. It's quite hilarious. And they're all quickly grabbing babies because now they think there's a threat. They've heard a scream. This guy has now immediately blamed me for this conundrum. You know, his family's distressed and he's like, this bloody human's threatening my family. So he just eyeballs me like this and goes, I am going to bust him up, and starts to approach. You can see him coming now. And now he's bleak with me. And he comes right up to me, right up to the lens. Brilliant. Coming straight at me, straight at me. You can see the family's not chilled. They're happy because the big fella has taken control of the scene. They're all taking it easy, babies on stomachs. He's still coming at me. He's bleak. Still coming at me. Still coming. Still coming. And then he gives me that kind of, he gets right up in my face. I'm shooting with a 24 mil here, or 20 mil. Doing a 20 mil. Fixed 20 mil. No, 24. Doesn't matter. So I'm going very wide, trying to get this in the mountains. So he's right up in the camera's face now, and he's giving me the side eye. So, and they're big animals, so it was quite exciting. And then he gives me the side eye when he realizes that maybe I'm not a threat. He looks around to make sure people are watching, and then he sticks his butt in the air. And I think that's gelada for you inferior being. Anyway, I like these pictures. However, they're really busy, okay? But I love the composition of him and his family. It's another storytelling opportunity here to include the essence of geladas. They're little, small families, the Simian Mountains, everything in one. However, this fellow over here who's just sunning himself is a distraction. He's not getting involved. This one over here is a bit of a distraction. So we're going to crop it. First, we want to choose the most impactful one, okay? So all of them have got direct eye contact. He's coming to whip my ass. So all of them are looking right into the frame. So we don't have to worry about eye contact. We don't have to worry about ears facing forward. You can't see them. They're behind his mane. So what do we look for? Feet. The most confronting image that tells the best story. So you look at his feet. You can see this one. His foot's kind of up, but there's the foot that's up's behind him. This one, the foot's a little bit more forward. The next one, both feet are down. And I think this is the one I chose, which I like the most. Yeah, I like this one. Now, there's two options here. Even though this foot is back, it's catching sunlight, which means compared to, I think it was this one, that foot's back and up, it was in the dark. So it's a little bit more, there's pressure coming down on that foot, and he's coming into the frame. He's closest in the frame, so he's biggest in the frame compared to the other pictures. So it's the most confronting, most powerful, those images there. So cropping, I just want to get rid of that distraction over there and that distraction over there and come into a nice portrait. Now, remembering your rule of thirds, this PowerPoint is right on his chest, going along his face. His family is almost on the second PowerPoint in the corner here. So composition-wise, it's pretty much bang on something around there. And then you do usual things, maybe a little bit of contrast. This basics panel is always going to be a matter of taste. There's very wrong things you can do, no matter who you are, like bumper clarity all the way to the end. Looks terrible. So that we're not going to do. A little bit of contrast, maybe lift the shadows a little bit because it's still that harsh light. A little bit of clarity. Now I'm shooting this settings-wise. I'm shooting this at, I think it was. Let's have a look. It's a very narrow, yeah, f10, very narrow aperture or high number value aperture f10 because I wanted the whole family, or as much of the family in focus, and the Simian Mountains to have a bit of clarity in them as well. I don't want it to be blurred out. So even though it's at f10, he's right in the frame, so he has taken the focus, and the family's a little bit less sharp, but still there's a lot of clarity to see him clearly. So there are my settings. I could have done some things better here, but shooting in different directions. ISO 1250, I certainly didn't need that amount, but I think I was shooting males that are about to fight, so I needed a bit of ISO to bump my shutter speed up. So that's where that ended up. So there's Gelada Baboons. That's a cool sighting. I really enjoyed that. I hope you all get to Ethiopia. It really is the most magnificent place. I just finished a blog on it, and the blog sucks compared to the magnitude of Ethiopia. So let's look at another sighting. Okay. Hope everyone's following along and I'm missing out.
Oh, look what's going on.
This is, believe it or not,
Did you see the males?
Uganda.
JP? Rare, eh? That's what
Okay, Uganda is not known for lions. Its glory animal is gorillas and chimpanzees. One of the better places to see it. Yet it has a number of places that have lions in them. And this is
rare, eh? That's what I thought.
Geez, someone just take a picture.
Unbelievable.
It has a lot of lions in a place called Ishasha. Oh, sorry, Queen Elizabeth National Park. This is where this was taken on. And what's really cool about it is they climb trees often. Often. In Ishasha, regularly, they prefer to sleep in trees than the ground, the females especially. And there's a lot of places in the world, in Africa, sorry, where lions climb trees and sleep in trees. But a lot of the time, it's an unusual thing. In Ishasha, it's more unusual in Ishasha for the females to be sleeping on the ground. So they often find fig trees. But what's really special is finding males in trees. Now, males are a lot more heavier. They struggle to climb trees, especially a tree like this. I think it's a paper bark acacia. Extremely difficult to climb, and with such a heavy body, it's very hard. We were extremely lucky to see this. Even our guide JP said that he had not seen a sighting like this for a very, very long time, where two males climbed so high in a tree as these two did, these two boys. And then they slept in the tree. They slept up there like cats, like small cats. So let's have a look at some of the images we've got from that incredible sighting. There we go. We've got a number of images. Now, one thing you need to notice, firstly, is one of the lions have a collar, because there's still quite a lot of development in terms of conservation to be had in Queen Elizabeth National Park, and especially these tree climbing lions and the introduction of lions. They've had some bad years with lions, with poisonings, with disease. So they're monitoring the lions coming back, but it's a very slow process. So first issue is it's not straight. I'm just going to straighten them. I took 3 images here. I think, well, I took a lot more than 3, but I brought 3 up. Then halfway, and then fully up in the tree. Now, I was stuck at, no, I had a 200-400 Nikon, which was great for the scene. I could go in a little bit closer, and I could go in a little bit further back. So the big thing for me, instead of going too close, now can you imagine if you'd taken this shot? It doesn't really give scale to how high the lion is in the tree, which is what's remarkable. So it kind of takes away from it. That's why I pulled back and wanted to include a lot more of the tree. It gives this lion obviously jumping up the frame. It gives it a little bit more to look at, instead of a slightly more bland picture of a lion that's just sitting on a branch, which can happen anywhere. So this image kind of could, to a very experienced traveler in Africa, you could almost say, that is Ishasha, Queen Elizabeth National Park, to see these lines up. Now, PowerPoints in composition, putting the bottom one on this line and the top one on the top line, making it very easy for the viewer. The first step of making it very easy for the viewer to find the lines. Done. I maybe took this one a little bit dark. I'll probably lift the exposure a little bit. Dehaze is a lovely thing in this situation because there's a lot of heat and dust in the air. Just a little bit. If dehaze is such a strong tool, if you do too much, you can see it completely messes the scene up. But a little bit of dehaze just to take a little bit of that edge off, and then small things like clarity, a little bit of texture. I'll probably paint that using the brush onto the tree at a later stage, a little bit more of it on the line. Kick the whites up on the line itself. And do the same thing with this line. Paint over him like this. Oh, and kick the whites up. Just a nice even way of lifting the exposure, as well as a nice even contrast on your subject, instead of just lifting the exposure ring itself over here while brushing, because it looks quite uneven. Okay, so there's the first image. I like them all. I don't mind that there's a collar there. It's conservation. And then when they got a little bit higher, I went in a little bit closer to do a few more. I took 2 pictures I don't know. I don't really care to try and tell which one I like more. To be honest, I like them both. I like them both a lot. This is more a print picture because the finer details are really small, which are the lines in the tree. You have to look a little bit carefully to find them. So this should be printed big on the wall for it to have a real impact. But the settings are all the same. A little bit of clarity, texture, vibrance because it's a bit flat. It's late in the day, and this will work really well as a nice big print. Unfortunately, all the way back at 200. Preferably, I'd have liked to have included the bottom of the tree here as well. And then it would have been a really beautiful big print. But all the way back at 200, I couldn't really fit it all in. So this here is better as a smaller image. It's more confronting. You can very easily see the two lines, profiles, and the settings will be the same. A little bit of clarity, contrast, just giving it a bit of zing, vibrance. Remember, vibrance is going to saturate colors, but it's going to avoid skin tones. So you're pretty safe here with kicking the vibrance up quite a lot, giving it a little bit of zing. Now, it is a little risky here with this branch coming out of the edge of your frame. It's almost distracting, but I don't think we have a choice there unless we went with something like that, which could work. I actually like that. I prefer that. I prefer that. I prefer that. Today I prefer it. Who knows? Tomorrow I might change my mind. But there we go. Ishasha, Uganda. You must get there. It's magic. It's different. Completely different to anywhere else I've ever seen. Man, I should have gotten some. Where are those pictures? Oh, they're locked in our office. Sorry, locked down is... those of you who know what a euphorbia is, it looks like a cactus, and there's one called a euphorbia candelabra, which is a very big version of the euphorbia. It grows with this huge mushroom top. Looks like a massive cactus. Now here, apparently because the seeds were being carried on camel traders who were trading with salt, moving salt back and forth, the seeds of these euphorbias got spread all over the place. And now there's groves of these euphorbias. I've never seen it like this in my life. Everywhere you look, there are these massive, beautiful euphorbias. And the cats sleep inside them sometimes. So you can get these pictures of cats in a euphorbia. I've seen the pictures. I've actually never seen it myself. It's quite rare. But it is a very unique destination. And it's in between chimpanzees and gorillas. So it's a really incredible place to go. So there's a little bit on how I would compose that with those three images. There's not much settings adjustments I would do more than that. The big thing with them would be to compose them right, and that's how I would do it. So let's check out let's have a look at some other stuff here. What other sightings do I have? Okay, this was the South Luangwa. As Dennis Stogsdill, his good friend and client of Wild Eye, sitting at the height of Shenton Safaris, Mwamba Camp, which is inland off the Luangwa River. They've got a watering hole here, which is absolutely teeming with wildlife. Elephants are there all the time, buffaloes, many things. So you can go and sit in there as long as you like. And they've got little sections at the bottom here where you can actually lie down and get a very low angle. A little log there where birds come and land. So there's a lot of different things you can do. But on this day, these elephants were here and they were dusting this white sand, very, very white sand. And it's very powdery, so it really explodes all over the elephant. And dusting elephant is always a great thing to take pictures of. So Dennis and I sat here, took a lot of images. Quite a funny story with Mwamba Camp, actually. I think a friend of mine told me a lion once chased an impala, a very sick lion, chased an impala from this watering hole at night. And the impala ran through the camp, which is reed walled rooms. It's the most beautiful place, one of my favorite places in Africa, and ran that impala through the veranda of one of the rooms. So the couple in there got a huge fright and definitely got their money's worth in terms of the safari experience. So yeah, Very cool place, very well placed. Last time I was there, literally lions roaring every night right around camp. Buffalo and lion fights, you can hear them in the distance at 12 o'clock at night. Lions attacking buffalo. Surreal experience. Yes, yes, they do. Yes, they do, Igo. Absolutely, they do. All right, let's have a look at some of the pictures here. These were quite a bit, we had to play around a bit here because the light was very, why can I still hear? Very harsh, middle of the day. Preferably a bit of side light lower in the day really lights up these areas, but there's a lot of explosion of the highlights on this dust in the midday. So we took a bunch of pictures, and the thing to look for in these pictures is, again, elements that define your subject, that make it obvious that it's an elephant or whatever your subject might be, in this case, an elephant. So, and especially in a dusting situation like this, areas of clarity that burst through the dust. If it's just a big wash of dust, like this one, to be honest, it's just dust everywhere. There's a little bit of air coming out, but if you were to focus on that air, there's also these trees in the background which are very distracting, and they don't have a good relationship with your subject at all. So I'd want to get rid of those trees, but if I do get rid of those trees and I crop it into about here, there's not much going on here. There's just a wash of dust. You can kind of get really creative, but there's not much there, to be honest. I was shooting, I think I only ran down with my 70-200, so I was at 200 mils. For some of these situations, I would have rather been closer to kind of fill the frame with these moments of where the ear is opening up, and you can see like this is one of my favorites. So moments of clarity, just like that. You can see the ears flicking back. You can see it's very sharp where all these bits of dust are flying off the ear. The veins in the ear are very clear. Although the dust is really adding to the scene, there is a portion of clarity which gives it some artistic what word am I looking for? Artistic. Okay, well, you know what I mean. So something like this, cropping in, you can move it around and play with it. I want to focus on that ear, the dust, and this area where the veins are. It's a little bit of a more fine art approach to the image. One thing I don't want to do is crop so far in that kind of the eye over here is sitting on the edge of the frame. That eye is significant. If I crop the eye completely out, I crop too much out of the vein. So I've got to include the eye, and I've got to include it quite a lot. So now, let's sit about there. Right, let's play. Dehaze, just a touch of dehaze, because you know there's dust in the air. There's a lot of dust in the air. It just makes it a little bit more clearer over here, okay? And one thing I want to do is I want to take away the strength of these trees in the corner here, the green trees over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the color away from those trees. Sorry, not the luminance. I can actually lift the luminance and take the color away. Now you can see that they're not as catching anymore, and I think they're only a distraction. They're not assisting with the artistic process at all. So I've taken the color away a little bit. I'm also going to come down into effects, and I'm going to add a vignette, but I'm not going to darken the edges, which is what you often do with a vignette. I'm just going to lighten them slightly, just a little bit, like this. Okay. By doing that, again, I've removed a little bit of power from that corner, and I've brought a little bit more attention into the center here. Now, I'm going to come back and paint. I'm not going to put clarity. Now, remember, clarity and sharpening and texture in areas of smooth areas, like these dusty areas over here. It can create granules, it can create noise. It's sensitive to that. But in areas of texture, you can be quite brave with it. So when I click on this and I add texture and I add clarity to whatever extent, I want to keep it inside the areas where I want that dust coming off the elephant's ear, these veins all the way around there. And now you've created a nice piece of fine art that's quite pleasant to look at. You kind of look at it and you have to go, that's interesting. So That's pretty much where I'd leave that. I might do some other finer details. I'll check it in black and white. Remember, with black and white, you've really got to use your blacks and whites. You've got to punch your blacks, sometimes not too much, and your whites, and to give it a bit of contrast. Otherwise, it looks very flat. I'm not quite sure which direction I'll go. Sometimes, instead of going black and white, try this. When you're going, oof, maybe I should try black and white, maybe sometimes just bring the exposure down. And sometimes you get a nice gray, contrasty image before you flatten it out completely black and white. So I actually quite like this. I prefer this just slightly desaturated image instead of black and white. So I'll probably leave it at that. There's loads of them. We took so many images. I've got a few here. I don't like that one. There's nothing in it. Neither is that one. That one neither. This, no, you must look at. There's some stuff here. There's some stuff here. There's some fine art. There's a few things we can do here. Okay, there's two things to look at here. One, the tail itself is now flicked into the frame and is surrounded by dust. The tail is a very significant part of an elephant. It defines an elephant too. There's no other tail like it in the world. The ears sticking out a little bit here. So we want to use those points. The tail's also out in this one, which is quite nice, but I actually kind of prefer this one. It's lying in the dust. So we're going to crop out all the distractions, which is pretty much everything outside of this elephant. And there's two things we can do here. Either we can go just to the tail and we can create a little bit of a black and white fine art image, something like this. Dehaze again. Now we can use clarity over kind of most of the frame. Let's bring the blacks down. Let's kick the whites up, give the dust a little bit more fire. Okay. It's gotten a bit warm because of the dehaze, so I'm going to bring the saturation down a little bit. And you can have a kind of fine art image like this. Kick the contrast up. It's going to make that tail pop a little bit. And there's a few more things I'll probably do, like go into Photoshop and remove these little dust particles that just look like hotspots now. I really don't like using this spot removal tool in Lightroom. I just think if you've got the option of the J function in Photoshop, there's no excuse, and you should go to Photoshop and use it. It's much more powerful. But I'd remove these, and you're left with quite a nice fine art image. I like that. I like the tail. I like the dusk. I like that it's not obvious. I like that it's hazy. That's the whole point of it. It's an elephant that's shrouded in dust. I'll probably turn this into a print at some stage as well. Or you could try the route of maybe including the ear. Okay, something like this. Go nice and wide. Again, this is with print in mind. This is creating something for a wall. Now, I just want to take away this corner again. This corner in here is still very distracting. So same process. I just want to do this properly because it'll annoy me while desaturate it, lift its temperature, effects, vignette, brighten the edges just a little bit. And now you can see you've taken away. Now we can come back to basic and we can do our usual stuff. A bit of clarity, a bit of texture, dehaze it slightly. Bang. Bring the blacks down, up the contrast, bring the whites up for the dust, the blacks for the tail. And you could be left with a fine art image that you could print on the wall. Although, personally, I like the tail one on its own a little bit better. I find it more artistic. So there we go. That's kind of what we're aiming for in that scene. I hope that makes sense. These elements of an elephant and getting it to pop through the dust. The moments that you're looking for is when there's clarity on something that defines your subject through the dust. So there's the elephant scene. There's the elephant scene. We've got some more scenes here. Again, if anybody has any questions, let me know. Let's do this one. I've only got one video of it. This is leopard climbing a tree. Beautiful. I could watch that all day. All day. Huh. I love leopards. Beautiful animals. Let's look at the scene, the image. Okay. I'm only bringing up one from the scene. This is coming back down again, okay? The same tree. Now, firstly, it's very busy, okay? There's a lot of straight lines here. Now, straight lines, for me, if they're not in a pattern, they need to go. They need to go, full stop. So they're not in a pattern here, they're irregular, which makes, for me, it makes the image just a mechanical copy of what's going on. There's nothing artistic about it because these are heavy betrayal to any kind of artistic principles. So we try and crop them out. There's no way of doing it without cropping significant parts of the leopard out. So crop the leopard. It's okay to crop the leopard, but crop it. Quite a nice thing when you're cropping your subject. It's not a rule, but it's a good baseline to go on when deciding where to crop to, is crop between the joints. So don't crop on its knee, crop between the knee and thigh. Don't crop on its ankle, crop between the knee and the ankle, or between its hips and its shoulders. So instead of cropping at its hips or its shoulders, you crop between it, okay? Somewhere around there, right? Now it's quite a square frame. I don't really like it square because there's a lot of empty space here, okay? Empty space and negative space. What are my camera settings for the leopard? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Oh, whatever it was completely wrong. F10, ISO 5000, 1,800th of a second. So I'd obviously forgotten my settings on something completely wrong. So don't ever take a picture like that. You can see the ISO could have come down to, with this leopard descending the tree, probably as little as 400, easily as little as 400, bringing that down to, leopard descending the tree is going to come down at pace at some sections, so I'd leave it at about 1,600. And it certainly doesn't have to be on F10. This honestly looks like I was trying to shoot some kind of landscape before this leopard did this. So mess those settings up. There's going to be some noise in here because of it, which is highly disappointing. Jeez, I did not see that coming. Terrible settings. Don't look at these settings. That should be on about, personally, about F6.3 to F8. I don't want to go too narrow because I want the textures in this. No, I'll probably on aperture priority. If I was shooting a landscape, I was probably on manual, and that might have been of what had happened here if I was shooting a landscape before this. And when I switched over to doing wildlife stuff, I just didn't change my settings. It's on a 200, 400 mil. But if I'm doing wildlife photography, most of the time I'm on aperture priority, just because it's a quick way of manipulating your settings. If I come around a corner and there's some zebra that are feeding and it's a nice big scene, I can shoot it on F9. I just roll my aperture dial to F9. And I get that picture. If I come around the corner and I leave my ISO at 400, to say it's like there's a lot of light in the day, and I leave my ISO at 400. I come around the corner. I don't use auto ISO ever, to be honest. If I'm not using full manual, I'm using aperture priority. If I'm using, because a lot of people use manual and auto ISO, which is the same as using shutter priority. Aperture priority is just giving you control of different things, and there's no wrong choice there. It's whatever you're used to. A lot of people use manual with auto ISO. A lot of people use shutter speed. A lot of people use shutter priority. A lot of people use aperture priority. There is no wrong choice. Whatever you're used to. However, there can be a wrong and right choice between any three of those options and full manual. Full manual does take time. I spent the first 2 years of my photographic career on full manual. I loved it. I got to know how everything interacted with each other, but there were scenes where I was like, oh, lines coming, boom, 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 forgot to lift my shutter speed and it was blurry. So aperture priority does give you a little bit more control in scenes where you don't have a lot of time to change your settings. So aperture priority always with wildlife, manual for landscapes, astrophotography, always on manual. That's pretty much what I use. Shutter priority sometimes for motion blur. If I'm shooting motion blur and I'm only shooting motion blur, I'll go to shutter priority and fix my shutter. Hope that answers your question. Joge, I hope that answers your question there. So settings wise, terrible. So let's fix it by composing a little bit better. Okay, Empty space on the side here, not good. Right, so I want to take a little bit of that away. It's a bit distracting. And bring it into a more portrait shaped image. Something like that. The leopard's climbing into the frame. Now, I don't mind that he's a little bit chopped up there because he is, the chop is intentional, the crop is intentional. There's still a little bit too much room here next to his paw. So I'm trying to bring that edge up without losing too much. Somewhere around there. Now he's climbing down into the frame. Lift the shadows a little bit of contrast. Now, with the background so far away, I can do a little bit of texture and clarity. Take it easy. What is a good shutter speed setting for a leopard, Turgay? Is it depends what the leopard's doing. A descending leopard like this, it should be on about 1600 when he's coming down the tree. He comes down the tree quite elegantly, so not going to be too much movement. So about 1600. A walking leopard, you can shoot that on 640, 1/640th. A leopard sprinting after an impala, you can get away with 12,250. You can do 1600. Ideally, with something happening that fast, you want to be 2000 and above. 2500, probably your best bet for a leopard sprinting after an impala. It's a lot of speed, a lot of dust, things flying. So if you want to freeze that situation, about 2500. Okay. The only thing I'll do here, again, I'm a perfectionist. I don't like these lines coming out in the side here. So the last thing I'll do is, thanks, Turgay. Go to Photoshop, right click on the image, edit in Photoshop, and then come back. Come on. Come on, come on, turn the radio on. Sometimes I say it's fine. I hope everyone's good and well in this Corona era. It's bizarre. It's very strange. My brothers and my best friends are all managed to self-isolate on a property out in the mountains next to a river full of trout and fun things to do, motorbikes. So it's not fair. Anyway, I'm having a huge amount of fun by myself. Why is this not coming? Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. Right. Now, again, I'm not going to do too much here, guys, but I'm just going to J function those little distractions out. Okay. Bang, bang, bang. Alice. I'm not moaning. Okay, I am a little. I want to be with my friends, drinking whiskey and catching trout. Wouldn't we all? Just jaying them all out. This takes time, guys. I'm not going to do it exactly. We don't have that kind of time on our hands. Oh, you see what that did? Messed it up completely. Okay. I'd have to take a little bit more time to do that. But you can see now further back how much better it looks without those sticks on the side there. So there's the new one. If you look at the previous version, the sticks make a big difference. Those little straight lines in places they're not supposed to be, they make a big difference. So learn the J function. That's starting to burn my eyes out. Learn the J function. It's really, really useful. A lot of ginger in that tea. Okay, so guys, let's look at one more. How about that? I'm already over our time limit, but I've put them here. So firstly, I saw this image. I thought I'd add this. Can you guys hear it? Can you hear it? Can anyone hear it? Can anyone hear it? closely you can hear his brother. Alice's cat is upset about the roaring lion. Okay. I'm sure a lot of you are going to go on safari or have been on safari and are going to go again. And if you're lucky enough to have a lion roaring next to you, yeah, no, that one blade of grass. That's why I was videoing, in fact, because I was lower down and I was driving the Jeep myself. That lower grass, that piece of grass, I was like, I think this is pre-J function, or pre-me knowing about the J function. It's a very old video. But I just want to comment on something on the roaring lions. Can you guys all hear the shutter going off? Okay. Not a single image was kept out of this. Okay. There might have been enough here. And when it comes to a roaring lion, I urge you, okay, let's go to this point. Right there. Sorry, I lied. There was images kept here, but most of the time I worded that wrong. This one was bolder. I still probably wouldn't have kept it. When it comes to the male lion roaring, it is possibly one of the most incredible things you'll ever hear in your life when it happens quite close to you. And often we get a little bit excited and we start firing away with our pictures. Now, most of the time, it's just going to look like he's defecating, unless there's light at the right angle, catching them, and it's cold enough. This was in winter, and it's cold enough for mist to come out of his raw. If it's not cold enough for mist, just listen to it, because all of your pictures are going to look like this. Is he yawning, or is he stretching? An image can't capture sound. So unless there's mist and light is catching that mist from the back or from the side, it is really better to listen. And I see this a lot. People finally get that lion roaring next to them and they don't even listen to what's going on around them. They're taking so many pictures and they delete all of it because he's just got his mouth. And it's like he was roaring, but you can't see that through the image. So just bear that in mind when you're in the bush. I promise you, listening to him, feeling the energy of that sound is going to have more value than a picture of him looking funny like this. So I just found this picture. I found this video, so I thought I should express that. But keep an eye. It can make an incredibly beautiful image if the light is right and there's mist coming out of his mouth. You can do wonders. Here's another one. Last one, guys. Mala Game Reserve, South Africa. There was 13 cubs here on this rock going crazy. You can see the female is not happy about the amount of cubs that are going for her teats. Cubs from different females, her cubs, everyone's trying to get a little bit of teat, a little bit of milk. They're all going mad. She's a bit calm now. Oh, no, she's not. These are actually her cubs. She had 4. There's 13 of similar size, all on this rock going nuts. And I was looking for these moments of interaction between her and cubs. And when the scene, this is so messy here, as amazing as it is to see, if you look at the scene, it's awesome. Trust me, it's awesome. I don't take away from that. But as a picture, as an artistic picture, there's just too much going on. This cub in the bottom here is sleeping. Some are going for teats here. Some are going for face. Some are facing that way, this way, that way, all over the place. It's too messy. You don't know where to look. Although it's pretty, and as a documentative picture, it's let me put this up here because there we go. It looks like, what was that? Where was that? Anyway, it's too messy. There's no picture. So I was looking for moments of interaction, clean moments of interaction between mother and cub, where I could cancel out the mess of cubs that are all around it. It's tempting to go, let me just take pictures of this big scene. And sometimes it works if there's a bit of symmetry. For example, if something else showed up, maybe another lion, and all the cubs and mother looked in the same direction, bang, then the big shot's there. then there's symmetry. Symmetry is key for a situation like that. But until that happens, you need to start isolating your subjects somehow. You do that by zooming in or just following subjects that walk out of the scene, or zooming in and cutting out other cubs or adults. So we, after hundreds of images, thousands, I think it was myself and my good friend and client, Jill Vogt, who I think was with me in this scene. Pretty sure it was that. We saw those cubs a lot. For about 2 months straight, they just went up and down the same river. We saw them every day. It was marvelous. You want to see lions? Go to Mono. You'll see plenty. But out of all the pictures, this one was my favorite. Okay, managed to cancel out most of the cubs. Now there is one cub here that's decided to fall asleep. He's probably managed to get a little bit of milk, but he's managed to fall asleep. And for me, this is the connection when you're seeing leopards, cheetahs, lions, any of the cats interacting with their cubs. These are the moments you've got to look for, emotional moments of contact between mother and cub. And this for me stood out of all the shots. In fact, out of all the shots of all those months with the mothers and cubs, this one stood out for me the most for a number of reasons, and I'll tell you why. So cropping wise, okay, I'm never really going to use fixed crops unless I'm doing print work and I want them all to be the same size, or I'm doing social media work and I want them to all be the same size. But deciding what is really beautiful, I tend to custom it, because a crop can make an image, literally can make an image, make or break it. So little ear in the corner here, down below, don't like him. A little bit distracting. I want to take as much emphasis as I can away from this cub that's sleeping, and give as much of it as I can to mother and cub, while trying to keep them as central as possible. Let's bring it in a little bit more to about there. Now, a big moment for me also is this cub placing his paw in the mother's paw. And I mean, I'll explain this whole story to you now, and you know, we can all get to have our own versions of what we see in the picture, and that's the whole beauty of this whole thing. But Mandeep and Druti, I'm not quite sure. Your message came out as just a lot of symbols and numbers and stuff. I'm not quite sure what happened there. So there's a few things to look at here. The story being a cub interacting with its mother. Also, you can also go as far as saying the scars on the mother's face are an important part of the story. It really is difficult for a lioness to bring up cubs. Let's look at questions and answers. Oh, Charlotte, let me have a look why. Okay, Mandeep and Druti, let me write that down. Webinar on cropping. On cropping and composition. Write that down. Charlotte, to be honest, let me actually go back out of this, Charlotte, and let's see why we cropped the ear. Probably, more than likely. Now, I'm very happy cropping an ear, but if I'm going to crop an ear, I must crop it out completely or chop it right in half, like that, okay? I think by cropping out the entire ear, I'm taking a little bit more of this background away. So I'm making it a little bit more cleaner, personally. I don't think there's a huge difference. If I were to keep the whole ear in, I'm also letting in some potential new distractions, like this second foot over here has become quite prominent, and a little bit more background there. So I really want these lines to fill the frame in this case. So I'm bringing that in, taking that foot away, and I've just made it a little bit more clean by, oh, it's a little bit too much, by taking out those various distractions. Somewhere along there. I think that's the best I'm going to do. So now I want to bring more attention into the middle of this frame. This is the moment, that moment between the two heads. Pleasure, Charlotte, pleasure, pleasure. And the two paws here. This is a huge story here. So I'm going to do this quite quickly. The first thing I'm going to do, there's two ways of doing it. You can add a vignette around the edge to darken the edges, just a touch like that. All right. or you can do the method of adding 2 radial filters. Here's the radial filters at the top here, like this. Okay, you put one over the pores and faces, 0 it. Okay, it's really an inverted mask. If I click O, if you click the letter O, your mask will show. Right click, duplicate, move it to the right-hand side, you click off invert. Okay, so now this is affecting outside the lionesses, and this is affecting the money spot. Okay, off again, and then here I can do the clarity and the texture, lift the whites, make it pop a little bit more. Contrast, be careful with cats, especially around the noses, eyes. It gets very black here, they start looking gothic. So you can be very careful with contrast, maybe just a touch. Something like that. Somewhere around there. Click on the outside, and you can darken the outside just a touch. And now you've brought a little bit more, you've added global contrast in a very gradual way, which always looks beautiful. But you've also added texture and clarity to the right spots, now bringing the viewer to their attention, where their attention should be, which is these moments where the cub is touching the mother's face, like that. Okay. Now, I've already gone over 15 minutes, guys. I'm going to show you one last thing that I'll do to this image. There's a couple of ways of doing it. In Lightroom, you can see here. So you click on the brush, custom over here. You can see custom. You can go to dodge and burn, darken and lighten. What I want to do, because for me an important part of the story is the battle between 4 lionesses to bring up cubs. It's very difficult, and she shows it. There's bite marks on her face, scars all over her nose. I want to exemplify those. So I could go into the brush function and kick up the exposure, make it really small, and paint over those scars. Let's see how wide we can go. Let's do that little scar over there. Little differences, guys. Little differences make a huge impact in your image at the end. Small things add up to big things. Look at this. Making art, making art. Okay, done. Now, we put those next to each other. You can see the scars now become part of the story. The battle between the lioness, 4 lioness to bring up cubs. So just by adding a bit of light and intensity into those scars, it's almost like the light's catching them. You can know very smooth scar tissue. It comes out quite nicely. The best way to do that is in Photoshop with dodging and burning, but we won't go into there. This method is perfectly good for now. Guys, any questions? That is all the images for today. I've run out a little short on time. So any questions on the edits and stuff that we've done today? Otherwise, we'll see you in the near future. Doris, I am having a very long lecture coming up, I think next week, that we're going to go into some very interesting edits of Photoshop, Lightroom, doing some bold stuff, crazy stuff. Pleasure, Igo. Pleasure, guys. Oh, and this Friday I'm talking about South Luangwa and Mana Pools. Be there. It's going to be a really interesting talk. We'll look at images, videos, and have a general chit chat. Cheers, Mandeep and Druti. Pleasure, Charlotte. Great. Igo. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. I hope you learned something. I will chat to you all very soon. Take care. I'm going to end the video. Pleasure, Anne. Pleasure. And I'll see you all very soon. Take care. Stay well. All the very best.